ayang apianyo antumango oh no aneme kongo yika chimanyo ba etamane maringa me kongo yi aneme kongo yika chimanyo ba nerekere waringa me dokuyi aneme kongo yika chimanyo ba madam tisoringa me kongo yi aneme kongo yika chimanyo ba nerekere waringa me dokuyi eretimo.
We are pleased to hand over to our two eminent speakers from Liberia. Once they've presented us the Liberian case, we will have a question and answer session. And if time permits, we'll take some comments, but we will let them have the last word at the end of their encounter with the Southern Cameroons International Town Hall. Over to you, Banky and Yvette. And thank you so, so much. You ladies look so beautiful. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Lovely introduction. Our dear sisters, we are very, very pleased that you have extended your hands out and want to hear our story. Our story has to be prefaced by the fact that it was a Liberian woman, the late Angie Brooks, who was Liberia's permanent representative to the United Nations way back in the 60s. She chaired the Trusteeship Council, and it was the Trusteeship Council under her domain tenure that played an important role in bringing about Cameroons. Your history will show that. We are honoring her, Angie Brooks, from the United Nations at the time. She led the Trusteeship Council mission that played an important role in bringing together Cameroons, the Republic of Cameroon. So we are among her successors. This program of the Angie Brooks International Center is named after her. So we are doubly committed and pleased that you have reached out, and we in turn are able to reach out to you. It's very, very important as sisters at this very important time. You will hear in much detail from Yvette, but I also want to say that during my period of service with the United Nations in New York, we had the opportunity, I think, to interact and work with some of your own Cameroonians. We recall the name of Ruth and Paul Engo. We also recall others, Nancy, from your part, I believe. So it means a lot to us to be able to be a part of what you're doing. There are several angles of the Liberian women effort in this peace process, but one of the most significant one is that the Liberian women were part of MAWOPNET, the Mano River Union Peace Initiative, which in fact brought peace to the Mano River Union countries, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea, through some very, very difficult period. The UN General Assembly recognized the women of the Mano River Union, MAWOPNET, for that. Some of them have gone before and on to the great beyond. Mara Brownell, Ruth Caesar, and others. At the same time, one who is still very much around, Evelyn Kandekai and Ms. Teresa Lee Sherman, who was the only woman signatory and NGO civil society participating at the Comprehensive Peace Agreement in Accra. She's very much here, is with us in Liberia as Kandekai. These were some of the senior Liberian women who were in the forefront of bringing the peace to the sub-region and also at our individual levels. I also want to say that of significance in terms of how we operated is that the other signatory, woman signatory at the peace accords in Accra, Ghana, of course, was representing political party, of course, was then Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, subsequently became president. I also want to say that there were several arms of how the Liberian women were working together. There were those on the ground level and were those of us overseas. And what we did is we maximized and brought together our various contacts on the ground in terms of West Africa region, the contacts there, and those of us over in the international system, we interacted to work together. Very, very important to play the kind of a role that we eventually played. I will stop at this point and pass on to Yvette, whose vote I happen to share. Yvette, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, our sisters. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll just go straight into it because our understanding is you want to know how Liberian women did this. First of all, just to give you a very brief outline of our history, very brief. Our war years, 1989 to 1996 was our first war. The 3rd of September 1996 to the 2nd of August 1997 in Abuja, Ruth Sando-Perry was selected as chair of Liberia's ruling council, the first African woman head of state. And she was on the ruling council, she was the only woman of 6 members. And this was done in Abuja by ECOWAS after 11 peace attempts. And after 7 years of war, ECOWAS selected her. In 1997 was the election of Charles Taylor. Ruth Sando-Perry actually carried us into Charles Taylor's election, where Charles Taylor was elected. 1999 June to June 2003, we finally got a ceasefire agreement that was signed in Accra. August 2003 was our second civil war, which ended with a comprehensive peace agreement in Accra after 76 days of negotiations. And I want you to know that during those 76 days of negotiations, Liberian women were on the ground. They were there, and especially the women of Whipnet, even though my Wapnet was at the table, it was an agreement with Whipnet that the Mawapnet stay at the table and that Whipnet doesn't even come in as an observer at the table because the women didn't want any distraction or people to think that they were divided. So Whipnet continued a mass action. I'm sure you all remember at one point of even barring the doors to stop the men from leaving the meeting, because until they agree to go ahead and be serious about the peace accord. Because what the women were saying were these men constantly leaving the meetings and going to their hotels and enjoying themselves and drinking, and all of this was being sponsored by the international community. The women, meanwhile, especially the Whipnet women and even some of my Wapnet, was self-funding most of the time, sleeping with other people, leaving their families in Monrovia, etc. And so they finally got to the point where they decided we're just going to bar you. And luckily, President Abubakar of Nigeria was very sympathetic to the women and actually encouraged them to go ahead and do these things. So he was very helpful as well. So anyway, our second civil war, August 2003, ended with the comprehensive peace agreement in Accra. And August 2003, Charles Taylor also left Liberia for Nigeria, where he went into exile. In 2003, Judy Bryant was elected our interim president during the comprehensive peace agreement in Accra. And in 2005, we had the election of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf as the first elected woman head of state in Africa. And her term of office was from 2005 to 2018, when she turned over to our current president, George Weah. So that's just to give you all a brief timeline of Liberia, so you can have an idea what I'm talking about. In looking at women, at the role of women during these conflicts that we had, the main thing we have to think of, how was it initiated? It was initiated by the women of Liberia when they just got fed up with men being warmongers. And what we had seen were children being child soldiers, children being trafficked, children not going to school. And you know, women are just natural peace builders, and they're also natural people who always want to normalize their homes. I don't care how bad it became. I remember coming into Liberia every year because I just made it my mission. Even though I was in the diaspora, during some parts of it, I would come home every year, whether I was standing up in airplanes, anywhere I could get in this country, I got in it. And the point is, I would get in there and there would be a conflict going on in the middle of Monrovia. And I'll meet with the women and they say, oh, you know, Yvette, I have to go because my children are coming from school. How are they coming from school? I'm hearing bullets. Oh yeah, they gotta go to school. So this whole thing of the normalization by women of their families is something that is just in nature, and that we just seem to want to do, is to give our children and our families a more normal situation. But the Liberian women got to the point where it was just outrageous, the behavior of these warlords, and they could no longer tolerate it. So they sat down and started having meetings. They started having meetings in churches to say, look, we gotta put aside our differences. This thing is affecting all of us equally. It's affecting Muslims, it's affecting Christians, it's affecting people who don't even have religion. And the point is, everyone is dying in the same rate. The bullet has no mark of Christian, Muslim, or anything on it. So let's sit down and talk. And it started off with the women in the churches coming together and then meeting with the Muslim women, and everybody saying with grinding arm, we don't care about differences. We have one common cause, peace in the country. And so that was the major focus for the Liberian women, and they wanted peace. So even though the women were also victims of gender-based violence, we mustn't forget that, at the hands of armed actors, and they were forcibly and voluntarily recruited. Don't forget that, also in opposition groups, because as you have war in Africa, they will forcibly recruit women, and some women will voluntarily go when they see there's no other way. So that also happened. So you had women, when they came together, there were women who were part of different factions. I remember distinctly a meeting that we had in Abuja. And at the time I went to Abuja representing the diaspora. It was the time of the selection of Ruth Sando Perry as head of state. And at that meeting were all the warring factions, and every warring faction had women in it. And at that meeting, the first thing Ruth Perry did when she became head of state, she called together a meeting of the women of Liberia, irrespective of whichever warring faction or political party you are in. And we held that meeting in Abuja. And at that meeting, all the warring faction women were there. And again, the whole thing that the women held together was, we are moving forward. We're moving from war and we're going towards peace. And the main thing we're trying to do is to go ahead and have a government and have elections. So any problems arising, feel free to contact Mrs. Perry. I want to say emphatically here, at that meeting held by ECOWAS in Abuja to select Ruth Perry, one thing that was very clear, the women of Liberia, in the diaspora, in Liberia and everywhere else, we decided that we would lobby all the heads of state of ECOWAS, which we did. We went and we broke up into groups and we started lobbying the heads of state. Even the King of Morocco came. And we all lobbied them to say to them, we no longer wanted a man as head of state. That the men were interested in war and we were interested in peace. And we had to have peace in the country. It had been too long. And because of that, the heads of states decided that a woman would head Liberia. So for the first time in the history of Africa, a woman became head of state. And this was a selection by ECOWAS. And what happened is the process was they went through all the women that were there or could be nominated at that point. And they asked the warring factions, who would they agree to? And Ruth Sano-Pera was the one who was on the ground, who was the least objected to. So they all agreed that she should be the one, because the heads of state, through the lobbying of the women activists on the ground in Abuja, agreed with us that we would not have a man be head of state. And I can't stress sufficiently to you the need for international cooperation, the need to lobby your region, the need to lobby your regional groups. One has to, because they are the ones that bring the other perspective. I just told you about President Abubakar of Nigeria, how he was so helpful to the women on the ground during the Accra peace accord, even with the ceasefire. He was very helpful in trying to also garner some information and all, not only the information, but even funding for some of the women. He was able to do that. So Nigeria played a pivotal role as the lead mediator on that occasion. And then what also happened is the women, like I said, set aside all the differences and decided to concentrate. And one thing that happened is the women decided, well, what are our different strengths and weaknesses? The strength of Mawapnet was that Mawapnet had the Mano River Union by being part of, Mawapnet is Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone. And now La Côte d'Ivoire is joined. But so Mawapnet had that connection, and therefore they could use their sisters in those countries to also lobby those presidents. We had a situation in Liberia where President Charles Taylor and President Condé of Guinea were having serious problems, even though Charles Taylor had been elected and we thought we were more or less at peace. All of a sudden, this thing erupts with Taylor being insulting to Condé, Condé being insulting to Taylor. All of a sudden, we see people marshalling, Taylor marshalling people onto our borders, Condé marshalling people onto the Guinean borders. They stopped speaking, both talking about war again. The women decided it's not going to happen. We cannot take this again. Got up and went to see President Condé. And President Condé kept them waiting for quite a while, thinking that they would just get up and leave. They did not leave. That delegation was headed by Ma Mary Brownell. And when they got there, and he kept them for a while, then he finally came out and said, oh, I thought you would leave. Let me call my wife. You know, I thought you were going to leave. She said, no. What we decided to do, so Mary Brownell says to him, what we decided to do is to take you and Charles Taylor and lock the two of you in a room, and then you'll fight it out. Because you're not going to kill a Guinean woman, and you're not killing Liberian women over your two boys fighting. And Condé thought this was so amusing. He said, oh, let me call my wife. She's going to join my wife. I think this is a fantastic idea. And they were able to open the whole purpose, the whole negotiation again for them to start talking and to resolve that conflict, which was done. But I think the most important thing in looking at what's going on with the Liberian women is the level of commitment. One has to commit at all costs. I will tell you that the Liberian women will tell you that when it came, I'm sure you've heard of the no-sex bar, that they got to the point where they agreed that unless they had peace, there will be no sex in their homes. Girlfriends stop having sex with boyfriends, wives stop having sex with husbands. There was a saying, you wear trousers when you go to bed. Make sure you got on your short trousers when you go to bed, because there will be no sex unless your men come to the table. And that, believe it or not, it helped force the men to the table because they really felt it. And so also there was a situation where the women, when they said, if you all won't sit down and negotiate, we will strip naked. And I don't know if it's in the Cameroon, but definitely in Liberia, the stripping of a woman, and especially an older woman, is considered one of the worst curses you can give our people in our traditional lives. So of course, no man wanted to see older women stripping naked before them. And that also propelled them to the table. Another strategy that was used, some of these women also had friends who they went to school with and that were now rebel leaders. So that personal contact came into play. I'll give you an example. One of the leading women, Olubanke, is a Muslim, but she went to school with one of the members of Liberians, one of the Cllr movement leaders. And she was able to talk to him one-on-one, as did other women who had gone to school with some of the other leaders. So that personal connectivity mattered. Some of us came in, and I have a relationship with Charles Taylor, met with him. You know, people in the diaspora, do not forget your diaspora. I led the group Liberians United for Peace and Democracy in the United States. And it was composed of Liberians in the diaspora who were professionals. We were lawyers, accountants, doctors, etc. But of course, very involved in the war in Liberia because our people were here. And therefore, every day, anything about the war deeply affected all of us. And of course, you know, remittances had to come to Liberia to keep people afloat. However, we got together as one group and decided we were going to lobby the White House, the National Security Council, as well as the legislature, and we were Congress and the National Security Office. So we did that, and State Department. We did that successfully. One of the problems that were arising in Liberia at the time was that ECOWAS was about to leave Liberia, and ECOWAS had played such a pivotal role in maintaining some peace and stability through the ECOMOG that we could not afford to see ECOWAS leave Liberia. But they were having problems with money. And so we had said to the United States, we want you to put boots on the ground in Liberia. We feel the relationship between Liberia and the United States is such that you should put boots on the ground. And they had just had the situation in the United States of Black Hawk Down in Somalia. So therefore, they said to us, we cannot put boots on the ground because we're not willing to have any of our men die again in an African country trying to stabilize you all. So we said, in view of that, then you must give us money to support ECOWAS. And that's what they did. We lobbied with the Congressional Black Caucus. They were very much on board, okay? We lobbied with the Senate, with the House, the State Department, the White House, and everybody. We had a march on Washington, D.C. of Liberians throughout the diaspora. Liberians they came from Europe. They were from every part of the United States, and we marched on Washington, D.C. And we did get the exposure that we wanted, and we continue that lobbying effort. So I'm saying your diaspora is also very important to that. But
this is one of the unwelcome developments.
Is someone speaking? Oh, and then in addition, that women specifically advocated through their organizations in Liberia, such as the Liberian Women Initiative that started in 1994. So it was that far back that women started advocating. They were involved in peace talks, both as formal observers and through mass action. And I want to say that mass action is really impactful. To see women in white come up and come in the forefront and say, we want peace, no more war. And that was the rallying cry for the mass action, okay? That no more war. Very simple, but very astute and impactful message. And the women marched throughout Monrovia. At one point, they had women marching simultaneously through the different counties, calling on that, and that was WhipNet. So WhipNet mass action is definitely something that the other organizations came on, joined them. This coming together of women organizations is so important. When you're in a matter of conflict like you are in the Cameroon, you have to decide what is most important. Is peace. All these other things you can deal with once you have peace. All the problems and the issues and things, once you have peace, but to have your people dying on a daily basis, to have people's houses being burned, to have children not in school, to have women raped, to become child soldiers, have all of these things. There's such atrocities that even the human spirit cannot endure it for a long, prolonged period of time. And this is how women came in. And they were very influential in lobbying the armed actors to end the violence. And that was an important thing too. You're not only lobbying the international because you need that support, but the women must also lobby the very armed actors who are involved in the atrocities. Because unless you touch the humanism in them, they will continue to do these things. I'll give you an example of something that happened in Monrovia. At the time they decided to carve up the city of Monrovia, which is our capital, for those of you who don't know. And they decided they were going to cut up Monrovia into different factions. And all the rebel leaders were there, the factions, and decided, oh, I want this many blocks and I want that many blocks. And luckily the women were at the peace table. They had gotten there by just whining their way and saying, we really need to hear what you boys are going to do. We really need to know. And they said, okay, fine, you'll just be there, you'll come. So it wasn't a nice concession. It didn't matter. The women were there. And so when they were doing their carving up, proposed carving up, the women then said to them, oh, where are the schools? Where are the water sources? So you mean to say if my daughter has to go to look for water because we didn't have pipe-borne water during the war. So if she's going to look for water, she has to cross your line and make a shot in the other line, you understand? Or maybe raped by your soldiers. So you all have to look at, when you're cutting up this place that you all are dividing, you have to look at holistically what is in the space that you're asking for. So women make a difference when they're at the peace table. They also, they make a difference in how they think, how things should be looked at, and how to continue to keep that family unit together. Again, the negotiation, before the negotiation started and intensified, WIPNET was there doing the mass action. Everybody else went ahead and did it. The women realized that everybody had their strength. My WIPNET's strength was formal negotiations. WIPNET's strength was mass action. And they supported each other in that, okay? And encouraged women wherever you felt comfortable, fall in that line. Sometimes people felt comfortable in both groups and they went into both groups, okay? But there was a situation where President Abubakar in Ghana decided, because of the mass action that WIPNET was doing in Ghana, and they were doing great mass action, even bringing the Liberian refugee women in to support them, etc. Because some of them had to leave, they didn't have money. So they trained the Liberian refugee women in Ghana to come in and support them. President Abubakar saw all of this work. And so he decided, oh, why should we only have one group in here of women, which was my WIPNET at the time? He said, no, let us also bring in WIPNET. So WIPNET then, you know what WIPNET said to him? No, we are great at mass action. We don't want anybody dividing the women. The women have already decided who will be in there. My WIPNET represents all of us. And we outside as mass action represent my WIPNET too. And I want you to know that was a powerful statement of unity. It was a powerful statement of women realizing what the problem was and refusing to be played by anybody and saying we are in control of our destinies ourselves. And we have made that decision. This is who we are and this is how we are going to deal with it. And he respected that. I must say that for him. He respected it. My WIPNET stayed in the room. There were 6 of them in the room and mass action stayed outside. And that's how they were able to bar the men from going to their drinking places, etc. And they had to actually do some work. And we were finally able, first of all, to get a ceasefire agreement, and then eventually to get the comprehensive peace agreement that we got out of Ghana. So just for you to have an idea, I won't spend too much time because I really want us I want us to be able to talk back and forth and hear what anyone else wants to say.
To the Liberian Takumban, to Her Excellency Banky, to Yvette, thank you so, so, so much. I see that we already have a lot of comments in the chat room, and I'm sure there are questions that you are ready to take for us.
Yes.
So I'll just give the rules to the Southern Cameroons family and all our friends. Here in the Southern Cameroons International Town Hall, we are polite, we are respectful. You state your name before you ask your question. You keep it short. And for our Takumban from Liberia, you will be taking one question at a time. We won't bombard you with the questions. So we are going to ask our secretariat to help us by putting the questions on the screen. And then please, our Liberian Takumban, feel free to take the questions as you see fit, because I see that you both are working as a team. This is exactly what we are supposed to emulate. So, yeah, somebody is interrupting us. Feel free to take the questions. So Secretariat, put the questions on the screen. Meanwhile, Tak, Vicky, and I will read the questions one by one to you. So the first question I will take, what did you do to help young Liberian girls who were traumatized during the war? Girls and women, as you say, were traumatized during the war. What kind of support, what kind of help did you provide for them as a women's group? Thank you.
I can go ahead and answer.
Either of you, and if you answer, Banky can add a word, Yvette. So it's
okay.
Yeah.
Good. The women and girls, I mean, the traumatization, I can't even tell you the extent. There was so much rape that was being done. I mean, so many things that happened. Mothers saw daughters being raped, saw sons being raped, saw all kinds of atrocities. And what happened afterwards, some of the NGOs came in and assisted in trauma healing, and the UN assisted in trauma healing. But I just want you to know that it hasn't, I don't believe it's sufficient. There's so much trauma still. And what they've done, they've buried it. You know, with trauma, you take it and you put it aside and you just keep on going. And from time to time, those of us who are in Liberia, you will see it surface and you will say, well, where did that come from? Or what happened there? And you wouldn't know what happened until you really sit with the person and find out what happened. But I don't feel that in looking at Liberia reconstruction after our war, there was enough done with trauma, truthfully. And another thing that I want to bring to your attention is that the very warlords that raped these women, that did all these atrocities to them, including these young girls, some of these warlords, I want you to know, became members of government afterwards. So these women then saw these men excel into power and felt absolutely helpless because these men had now become ministers and running all around in government in their big cars, and they had actually done these atrocities. As you may have also known, we had a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which also was supposed to go towards healing some of the trauma that was on the ground. And even then you found them still lying, even though they had been giving some of them immunity and all of that, they were still lying. And this, I think, further traumatized some of the victims. But the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was something that helped also. But the international psychological help was important.
I just like to...
Could we have the next question? Oh, okay, Banky, over to you.
I just wanted to add that this issue of trauma and healing is so critical. It permeates the society, and unless it is tackled, and as Yvette said, we did not tackle it sufficiently. And as a result, you also are having the violence. Violence is seen as the response to everything. So this is very, very critical to be attended to.
Thank you. We have taken note of that. And Tak, Vicky, can you ask the next question, please? Okay, Tak, Vicky, if you're not there, let me ask it. What type of challenges would you consider that the men put in your path to actually disrupt your activities in the peace process? So you were involved in the peace, trying to get the men together. What did they do? What things did they do to make sure that you didn't succeed?
Well, one of the things that that the warlords definitely used was that during the conflict, they had the decision-making powers during negotiations, remember? And what happened is they used the continuing violence in Monrovia to gain concessions. So what they would do is they would say, oh, well, okay, you want this. And then when you look, one of them would start something in Monrovia to sort of scare the women back, to say, oh, we have to stop. He's gone ahead and done this. Because if you are going against a Pacific warlord and saying to him, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, and you got an international community on him, and you got everybody on him, and he would be, really, your women, really, you think you're going to do that? Then he will get his men in Monrovia to try and do something to start skirmishes or things like that. But you just have to be persistent with it. That's the whole thing. They're trying to scare you, rightfully so, you are scared, but you have to do that. Another thing that they tried to stop the women was to try to divide the women, to go ahead and say, oh, you know, this group is from this ethnic group. This group is the elites, and they're just using you to do whatever they want. Again, women who only have one objective, one goal, and that is to stop the war. And that had to be a consistent thing, because that was the one thing they kept using. Oh, these are the educated ones, and you all are just there. They're not paying attention to you all, etc. So they had those type of diversion tactics.
Thank you so much. Banky, do you have a word to add to that? Okay. How have Liberian women's status changed under a male president and a female president since the war ended? How do you see the changes? You seemed very powerful under a female president. What is your situation today, Liberian, with Takumban?
Let's say this. Under female president, what you had was the participation of Liberian women at significant cabinet level posts. That's the foremost thing, where women then began to occupy significant posts, such as Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Finance, Minister of Justice.
Minister of Agriculture.
Minister of Agriculture.
Minister of Commerce and Industry.
Yeah, Minister of Commerce and Industry. In short, what happened was that, and of course, and then women were heading some extraordinary, significant public corporations.
Revenue.
So, yeah, Liberian Revenue Authority.
Absolutely.
So basically, this was very important, that they were not just relegated to Ministry of Health, which was critical, or Ministry of Education, or Ministry of Gender. Those were critical. Socioeconomic development. But the fact that you saw women in significant posts was very important. So that was critical. And I can well remember, I always reflect on this particular case. There was a meeting at the Ministry of Finance, At the time, the Minister of Finance, a woman, I was Commerce and Industry. And there was a heated discussion going on where some of the donor community wanted to get involved in XYZ. That was an era, felt in the era of Minister of Commerce. As I came into the meeting, other people at the meeting said, Madam Minister, you here? I said, yes, what's happening? I said, no, absolutely not. We will not accept it. It is no question. That is not the donor's purview. I'm just mentioning it to say we had an opportunity, therefore, to exercise ourselves in significant posts. Maggie, you know how we work together in your area and how great, extraordinary work that African Development Bank was able to do under your leadership, the road network that you were able to put in place. You, what do you call it?
3 hours.
Right, and so on. Okay, so that was it during that significant period.
574 girls are gone from America.
Could you please mute the microphone, the person who is disturbing our guest speaking? I mean, she's actually addressing a very, very important point. Banky, please continue.
Yeah, another extremely interesting point about these women in these top positions, we all had international contacts. We had worked at the international level. We knew who to deal with. For example, when I became Minister of Commerce and Minister of Foreign Affairs, the UN representatives, Alan Doss, and the other, these were former UNTP RESREP colleagues of mine. The French ambassador in Liberia had actually served in Mauritius with me as head of French development assistance. The Chinese ambassador, when I was head of the UN in Zambia, the Chinese ambassador was their deputy chief of mission. The UNTP RESREP, these were colleagues are Cameroonian, as a matter of fact, and so on. So it was very interesting that all of us had extremely wide range of international contacts that we knew we had to bring to bear to work with them.
And how different is that with a male head of state?
She's going to answer that and I'll come in.
All right, no problem. Yvette, over to you.
Well, I would say that we still have at the top echelon, we have a woman who is vice president of Liberia, the first woman vice president of Liberia.
Cllr.
Yes, so we still have that, but there have been so many problems since then with that leadership and problems that are ongoing. Today we have a serious problem of not seeing women at the top echelon of government, because you now have only one senator in our legislature, one, okay? We have less than 10% in the House of Representatives of women. You have only 3 ministers, the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Health, the Minister of Gender. Those are our 3 ministers currently who are women. We have a lot of deputies that are women. But so there's definitely a shift in how things are done. I'm happy to at least report for the judiciary, we still have a number of women on the Supreme Court, which is great, okay? But the fact that the legislature and the executive branch, it's those 2 branches of government, have seen an increase in women in leadership. But I'm hopeful because the younger
women— Please let us
women—
mute the noise from the background so we can hear our eminent speakers. Please mute the noise from the background. Thank you.
The younger women who are coming up and who are aspiring towards leadership, I think now have a clear indication that they can achieve, because they have women before them who have achieved, and therefore they're no longer reclining and waiting for somebody to tell them, oh, you know, maybe you should run or maybe you should do this. They are now deciding on their own, I'm gonna go for it, you know? And the funny part is, you know, when women start to run, the first thing men say to them is, Or why don't you wait till later? Or why don't you take a lower post and just work your way up? But they don't tell men that. You all know that. They just tell them either go for it or not. So like I said, that's the difference between then and now, is we see more deputies than we do people at the table. And we're not enough in a legislature, and we hope we'll change that. We have a special elections coming up in December that deals with the senatorial elections. It's to show you the difference. In a senatorial election that's going to be in December 8th, the ruling party's entire slate are men. Not one woman is there. And that was for some of us a total shocker. Not one woman. And they have some strong women in the party. So I don't know, they only had men. So now we're hoping that the other parties will come up with women who will contest. But then in 2023 is our next presidential and legislative elections, where we hope to see more women vie for power, political power.
Let me add to complement that. As you see, we are having these senatorial elections coming up, and we, the women, are getting together with some of the younger women to push and make sure that some women candidates vie for these senatorial posts and support them together. This is very important for us, because if there is going to be an impact in 2023 during the elections, we need to have women positioned now. Do not think that you will wait. You have to take the necessary actions for all of you, or right now, towards whenever your next elections or whatever will be. You cannot, be relaxed. And that's what you all are doing. You're not being relaxed. You're trying to see how to position. You've got to be able to position yourself to be able to move to the next level.
Thank you very much for that response. I must add that all the donor countries and international organizations try their best also to send the best women in their institutions to Monrovia. I recall the Nigerian ambassador, Chigozie, was, the Sierra Leone ambassador. The US had 3 ambassadors that were, all women following. And then the EU was headed by a woman. Sweden had a female ambassador. And then when you come to the World Bank side, I was sent, and then you had Inguna, who came also. So the women actually formed a group among the donor community and the ambassadorships that actually supported Liberian women in mentoring. So I found myself with, Jewel Howard-Taylor, Her Excellency the Vice President, in a meeting with the Senate women, and also mentoring other women to prepare them for to run for office. So there was all of that activity going on. It was really, really fascinating to see how the international community also responded to Nigeria. Thank you. Let's have the next question, please. FemWise has opened in different countries. How can your organization, ABIC and FemWise, actually help Southern Cameroonian women to have a chapter of FemWise in Southern Cameroon? Is that a possibility?
Okay. Yes, FemWise has opened in different countries. As a matter of fact, FemWise is an AU project that they have throughout Africa. And what the African Union has decided is that they will then, through regional organizations, support FemWise. So like for ECOWAS, FemWise is being, so like Liberia and the 15 countries of ECOWAS are being, FemWise is being supported through ECOWAS. And it's the same thing with East Africa and North and South and Central Africa. So it is through that. And what happens is that there's supposed to be an annual meeting of all FemWise every year at the AU. And that is how it operates. So what you need to do is to get in touch with your FemWise chapter in your country, in Southern Cameroon, or to get in touch with FemWise in your region and say you have mediators there and who these mediators are. I just want to stress in terms of the mediation, once you always say which area of mediation you find yourself in, because there are people who can mediate political conflicts. There are people who can mediate community issues. There are people who can communicate, mediate different types and different level of mediation. So it's good to let whoever it is that's heading it know what it is that you do and if you want to do something else so that you can be trained to do something else or brought in to do something else. But again, go through your regional organization. You don't even have to go through your national chapter.
Okay, thank you very much for that response, Yvette. Now, there's a regional question. Since Yvette talked about, can you put up the regional question that I saw on Central African region? So Yvette, you can, I think it's actually asking for a commitment as well. Basically, the question is saying, the Central African region is one of the weakest of the 5 regions. It's actually the weakest of the 5 regions. And yet, when you look at the situation of Southern Cameroonians, the Anglophone population of Southern Cameroons is a minority within Cameroon itself. So compared to the region, an even smaller group. So given the fact that Southern Cameroon is very weak, that the central region of is very francophone, we seem to feel that we're in a hostile environment. So would you lobby for us with West Africa, because we don't have a President Abubakar, we don't have a Nigeria in the central region. Would you take up that lobby for us with ECOWAS? That's the question to you.
In terms of what? The lobby to do what?
In terms of the kind of support that you get for FemWise from the region, from ECOWAS.
Okay, I just want to say, first of all, even if I take it up with ECOWAS, the first will say to me, oh, but the Cameroon isn't part of ECOWAS anymore. And therefore, they should be going through their region. We can lobby with ECOWAS to talk to your regional people. Again, like I say, what we can also do is to send you the information, Maggie, of how people can directly get in touch with the AU. They don't even have to be bothered with whether they go through a structure in the Cameroon. They just have to be women who are mediators or want to be mediators. And so they can go ahead and directly through the AU, go ahead and register or ask for help. But in terms of FemWise, yes, I can put it here that I will ask ECOWAS, but again, like I said, there's very little ECOWAS is going to do because ECOWAS is in your region, your regional organization. It will have to be a regional organization. What I can do is open the doors for you with the African Union so you can directly lobby the African Union to make sure that they are inclusive in terms of your regional organization, and that Southern Cameroon is definitely made to play a part. And if I were you in Southern Cameroon, what I would do is to get together all the mediators and then go ahead and lobby the AU. That's a separate entity.
Thank you so much for that commitment. Thank you.
Let me make a further suggestion. I am sure there must be a UN Secretary General office for Central Africa. The UN Secretary General office for West Africa is Dr. Shambazin Singh. Try to find out, let us find out where is based the UN Secretary General office for Central Africa. I believe that you have one in Cameroon?
No, it's actually based in Libreville, Gabon.
Libreville, Gabon, excellent. Okay, excellent, 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 excellent. In fact, we have a colleague, Jean-Jacques Sadiki. I believe he's in Libreville because he's been trying to get me there. I believe that that could also be another approach. You go ahead with the AU as Yvette is talking about, but you then also go through the UN. You try to get the Secretary General office in Gabon, okay, to help you see what they're doing and so on. They could be responsive. So the way you might approach it, even if you're ICAS, in Central Africa itself, if you don't feel that that's sufficient, what do you call it, walking on two legs.
All right.
Check the UN Secretary General Office of Central Africa. I think they would be receptive, they would be responsive. And I have a colleague there, Jean-Jacques Sadiki. He used to be with Unmelia in Liberia many years ago. And what you want to do, send us, following this particular issue you talk, this particular dimension, send us an email, okay, flagging to us your desire for making this kind of linkage and see how, for example, any UN or AU office could assist you all to do X, Y, Z. Okay. I will then send this to this colleague of ours. He's originally from DRC, and he's Belgium, but he's based there in Gabon right now. He's worked in a post-conflict situation, helping us here in Liberia, and he could help to give some directive, but pose this question around this issue that you have just flagged and raised, and the permutations thereof, why you feel, for example, you could do with or need some assistance, and I'll get in touch with him to give some feedback, to give some pointers. So you're working both at the UN level and at the AU in terms of the African continent. And then we need to find out how would among the continent's sub-regions, what's the basis to go about having associate status or X, Y, Z? You see where I'm headed? How, for example, could you all there benefit from the experience of the ECOWAS countries, for example, and the women, You see where I'm headed?
I get you, Banky. You mentioned Mohammed Ibn Chambers in Dakar, and you mentioned Siddiqui in Gabon. So I'm gonna approach you and Yvette together to see how we develop the two-pronged approach that we will go with, with the UN and with AU in the region. So I really appreciate, your support in that direction, and I'll be contacting you with the women's groups to see how we can move forward. Thank you so much. Let me ask the question, the people posing the question to come again. Yes. So this one is very broad. It says, what advice will you give to us to get more women involved in, how do you mobilize more women involved in seeking justice and peace? It's very broad, so but
even though it's broad, I understand where this person is coming from, because you will find lots of women reclining, or maybe because they're in the diaspora, is not affecting them directly, even though indirectly it is, and therefore it's not on the front burner as though you are in the Cameroon. But I want to say this: one thing that has happened as a result of COVID is the use of Zoom and Skype and all of these things that now bring us together worldwide, that we don't have to pick up the phone necessarily and call, and that's an easier way to mobilize. And I think if the women of the Cameroons, especially Southern Cameroon, knowing the situation they're in, should start reaching out to their sisters in the Cameroon, even if it's saying, you all go to one spot and project the Zoom on the wall. But we really need to talk. We really need to see where you are, and making them feel that you are part of them, that you're not sitting down in Europe or somewhere else. And even though you may be sending remittances, even though you may have family there, you're dealing directly with your family, they need to feel that you are part of the actual day-to-day struggle, and that you will guide them. So we're hoping that from this, you will be able to provide guidance and be able to call meetings on Skype and be able to say to them, look, we're with you. This is what we suggest you do next. Let's try this strategy or that strategy, and let's see what can be done. And people may think things are small, but remember, things happen incrementally. It may not happen boom, but small incremental steps lead to huge results. So don't think anything is so small that it shouldn't be done.
Thank you very much, Yvette, for that response. Incremental steps, it's a long journey. Slowly we will get there. Any questions, comments from the floor? We seem to have come to an end of the written questions. So
there's a question here.
okay,
how do they foster unity among the women and deal with those who didn't want to work with others?
How did it what? I'm sorry, please repeat it.
Repeat, please.
How did they foster unity among the women and deal with those who didn't want to work with others?
Oh, okay. You have to cut your losses. I'm sorry to say, you really do. You have to just cut your losses. If they don't want to work with you, they don't want to work with you. But like I said, we got to a point in Liberia where for every woman, it was essential that we have peace. And I think you are getting to that point in Cameroon, that for everybody, peace is so important. And those who don't want to work with you, let it go, because you don't need distractors. You know, march on without them. Continue your marches, continue your mass action, continue your your informal gathering, continue lobbying with the various actors, continue the stakeholder meetings, all of this. And don't worry about those who won't join you. You know, there's nothing more attractive than success. The minute you become successful, those very people who didn't want to join you, be bothered, etc., when they start seeing that you get into the peace table, or start seeing that you are getting observer status and all of this, they will come flocking to join you. So don't be distracted by people who don't want to join you. Just continue. Even if you're 10, continue. People will come on board.
Wow, that is a very, very positive response. If you have little energies, little resources, don't be distracted by work trying to bring people together. If you are successful, you have a good strategy and you're successful, people will join the winning team. Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. Vicky, can you take another?
Yes. How did you handle the insecurity of the women in the war zone who felt intimidated and forced to withdraw from engaging?
Well, what happened is, yes, there were women who felt intimidated. There were women who felt they should disengage. But then you had the heroic women. You had the women who were being told by some of them in their families. I'll give you an example. You know, the fact that we got cultural differences in with the women. And for one thing, our Muslim sisters, their families didn't understand why the Muslim women will come and join these Christian women to act in this way in which the Quran didn't tell them they should act. Okay? Why you're being so outspoken? Why are you out there every day holding placards? That's not what the Quran tells you to do. You need to go home and sit down. And you'll be surprised. Their husbands were supporting these wives. Lots of the Muslim husbands were supporting the wives, but they were not the distractors. The distractors were the families who didn't understand why. So you had that. But regardless of that, these women persisted, because in the end they said, this is all our country. If there's war, all our children are going to be affected. If there's peace, all of our children are going to be affected. So they, like I said, you get to a point, you just let the people who are the naysayers go, and you go positively, and those who are frightened, let them go. You can't pull them into a situation if they're frightened. But you had people who got up and stood up to warlords, who got up and didn't care about those things. and decided it's time for us to take action and we must do it at all costs. So you will have both extremes and you have people in the middle who will support. So those who don't want to do it, don't force them to do it because they feel the person.
Okay.
Okay,
Sat,
now
Vicky,
question.
any more questions? Any
Yes,
more questions? Yeah.
Yes, there's Takumbang Eleno, can you ask?
The finance.
How did you
Okay.
finance their work?
Yeah.
What do you mean,
Thank
their-
you.
He's asking a question. Somebody's asking.
Can we have silence, please? Yeah, Eleanor?
Okay. My question is, there is a report from the AU in which the AU recommends Cameroon, French Cameroon, for releasing the political prisoners of Southern Cameroons after their grand national dialogue. Now, this is not true, and my question now is, how can we, with your help, get to FemWise to correct this faulty information and act on it? Thank you.
In addition to that, there's another question somebody is asking detailing about FemWise. If you can give a little explanation about FemWise.
Okay. First of all, it's a comment. You're saying when they released the political prisoners in Southern Cameroon?
The AU commended the government of Cameroon for releasing these Southern Cameroon's political prisoners. But the political prisoners are still in jail. They are not released. So this was false information, yes. So that's what she's saying. So what can we do about this to make sure that the situation is corrected, the story out there is corrected?
Do you have an AU office in Cameroon?
In Southern Cameroon. Do you have an AU office in Southern Cameroon?
I am sure there is one in Yaoundé. So, you know the AU.
There's one in US.
Yeah, but
Maybe I should add that this is a report of the 9th, this is a report of the AU Assembly of the 33rd Ordinary Session from the 9th to the 10th of February 2020. So this is when this report came out.
So it's actually commending the government for releasing the political prisoners, but the political prisoners are still in jail. That's the situation, yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to find out who presented it at the AU that the prisoners had been released. Do you know?
Eleanor, do you know who?
It says the Assembly of the Union 33rd Ordinary Session and the draft decisions and resolutions. And on page, I think it was page 10, on one of the pages.
So it's a report from the AU.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a report of their ordinary session, and the AU is commending the government of Cameroon for releasing political prisoners who are still in jail. Southern Cameroon's political prisoners are still in jail, so they are not released, and there is this information about their release.
Yeah.
I think you have to write the president of the AU. You have to write the president of the commission, the AU commission, to say that, this is not factual, that this is what has happened, they're not been released, that we would like the AU to rescind that commendation because it never happened.
And you copy the AU office in Yaoundé when you do that.
Yeah.
And they will very quickly take action.
So it is to write to the AU in Addis and then copy the AU in Yaoundé.
Yes, move fast.
I saw another question to you about financing. How do you finance your work? I think that's an important question for you, if you could help us
Definitely.
answer that question. Yeah.
I think when it came to financing of the women movement, a lot of it for the ordinary woman was self-financed. They made that commitment, and I will tell you, when the situation, especially when it finally got to Ghana, and we were going towards a ceasefire agreement, not even a peace accord, the ceasefire. Don't forget, it took 76 days with those men lollygagging in Ghana, enjoying hotels and the luxury and drinking whatever brandy or whatever they drink. It took 76 days before we got a peace accord, even though they were there. These women had no funding. These women were dependent on other women to help them. And that's what happened. The Liberian women in the refugee camps in Ghana assisted them. Those who had personal funds utilized that. Those who had a diaspora came to their aid. At some point, the UN also made available some small amounts of money for them as well. But it was, of course, hugely inadequate because they were funding these men lollygagging in these hotels and weren't really funding the women until that happened. So for financing of that level, yes, it was self-financed mainly in Ghana. Now, for the other mass actions, also applied at the time, it wasn't UN Women, it was UNIFEM. UNIFEM also assisted in helping to finance some different mass actions, as did UNDP. UNDP as well assisted in some of, with helping the women do some of the mass actions. Then we had, from time to time, ECOWAS. ECOWAS would come in with a little money here and there. But again, for the women, they had to raise a lot of their own funding and they had to self-fund. But now you have so many donors who can assist. You have the Norwegians, you have all the Nordics who are very much into women issues, yeah, so that they are able to help fund now. You can easily get those.
Oh, thank you so much for that advice on financing. We'll see that we get to Norway and Sweden. In the meantime, if anybody has any comments, could you just raise your hand on the Zoom so we can see to point you out for comments. But I want to thank our eminent women, the phenomenal women of Liberia, the phenomenal Takamban of Liberia. Thank you so much. Yes, for coming out to support us. You know, you ask for one, you get two, and you know, it couldn't be better. It couldn't be better. We couldn't have it this good. So in the meantime, while I see if there are any more questions, could people put their hands up if they want to make any comments, and then be thinking about whether you have any closing remarks to make. Let's see this. In spite of having the same goal, the Takamban women are so factionalized. What did your women do to find common ground and consensus to fight the peace? I think in a way, Yvette, you've given us some answer, but you know, just look at that question.
Yeah, but I think Maggie, this is so fundamental in mobilization, in being able to move forward, that one has to, again, prioritize.
Right.
Prioritize, and if the people fall on the wayside and cannot see your vision, let them go. I don't care, even if you're two women, believe me, you will accomplish something. You will not get everybody on board. Everybody cannot see your vision. Yes. Everybody cannot see your goal. But once you start to achieve, even if you're 10 women for the whole southern Cameroon, and you decide, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to lobby the United States, or we are going to start engaging. All right, we got 3 women in southern Cameroon, we got 7 outside. How are we going to support you 3 women? This is what we want you to do. Meet with so-and-so. Go ahead, strategize. Don't worry about the people who don't join you. They will join you. I'm really telling you this. I know some of you are finding it hard to believe. They will join you, because you will actually start showing dividends that they cannot show. So don't worry about them. I mean, the Liberian women were very fractionalized, not only in terms of religion, we have ethnic division, okay? So we have 30 tribes in Liberia. So you can imagine the fractionalization there. Again, it has to come to common commitment to one ideal. And those who don't join, don't worry about them.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm trying to see whether we have a hand screen. Okay.
And please reach out to French Cameroon. You may be surprised. It's like, you know what, and I think on the Cameroon and it's split, I think on the Arab-Israeli conflict. And one of the things when my organization, Anti-Brokes, went to Palestine, we had a deep sit-down discussion with Israel and Palestine over the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And one of the things, one of the women who had been across in the Gaza Strip, and there are women in Israel that fully support the Palestinian women, and women of Palestine that support Israelis. So despite all the differences and all the killings and everything that's going on there, they still were able to find common ground. I find it hard to believe that you will not find common ground with French Cameroonians. There will be women there who's had enough, who are fed up with this warmongering and killing and all of this thing and disruption in their lives too. And they want a solution. And women will quicker find a solution, believe me, than the men will.
Thank you so much. We could move to comments if there aren't any more questions, or there is one from, who else? Okay, I see any Takenbank from Ground Zero with questions, please. You might not be able to. Takenbank from Ground Zero. For the benefit of our speakers, Ground Zero is actually Southern Cameroon. Ground One is Nigeria, where a lot of the refugees are. So we try to give priority to Ground Zero because they're later and they don't have the kind of resources that we have. So Ground Zero, any comments? If not, we'll take a gentleman called Julius and then Tessie after Julius. Julius, please unmute yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving the mic. I first of all want to congratulate our Takembem and say we, the men of Southern Cameroon, we stand side by side with our mothers, and we are happy with them because they always inspire us. And for our guests, thank you for the hard work you did to bring your country and even get the first female African president. That was a job well done, and congratulations. I just have a little bit of comment here that the Liberian issue was like two groups of people fighting with which group is going to rule the country. But here is a problem of two countries that came together, and one is acting like a colonial master of the other. So it's a little, there are some things that I think our women can take from you, but there are some peculiarity with our cause, because even women from the other side of the Mongo, they are, most of them, one like, if we are talking of peace coming back to Cameroon in their definition, they'll be okay. But if it is like us, the English speaking, having our own country, then they will tell you the territorial integrity of Cameroon is non-negotiable. And we, the Ambazonian, also are saying our territorial integration is non-negotiable. So it's only a neutral partner, a third partner that can come inside there and trying to broke something. Also, I want to ask you this question. How did you deal with corruption during your days of fighting? Because one of the problems we are facing, most difficulty we are facing in this, our fight, is issue of embezzlement and mismanagement. So how did you deal with that if that ever occurred with you people? Thank you.
Oh gosh.
The corruption is still there, look here. I mean, that's a huge one. Yeah.
Corruption is ongoing. It's ongoing. It's always been there. And especially when you are bringing people together, it is so important that you have people that you can trust to handle your finances, especially if you are a group that's going up and bringing other people in a mass action or anything. Transparency is so important. Accountability is so important. So the best way to deal with corruption is to get people that everyone at least feel has some sense of integrity and that will report and will be transparent. And, you know, and everybody come to the agreement, those are the people that will manage your funds. Other than that, you are going to have this constant hauling and pulling. You will have people leaving because they don't feel the money is going in the right places. It's not going where it's budgeted for. And especially as the resources are going to be extremely scarce. So you can't just use it willy-nilly and put it in someone's pockets. So you're right, you need to get people with integrity to handle your finances that everyone agreed that person will, and you have to put in check and balances for that, whether it's a monthly reporting, a weekly reporting, or some way to have some reporting that everybody can hear, see, and know. Because it will rip you apart otherwise, really.
I would like people who raise their hands when they've been addressed. Could you lower your hand so we can see who's left? In the meantime, Tessie Bax has their hands up. Can you get to your question or comments, Tessie Bax?
Okay, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. And I really want to thank you, our honorable ladies from Liberia. Really much appreciate all the contributions and the advice. And the one I'm taking, which I really stand for very much, and I want to thank you for reiterating that point, is that focus on those who are driving the cause, and those who are causing division, eventually they will fall on the line. I thank you for bringing that point. That's my view. I love that. I have this question though, very burning in my heart. You guys definitely had political prisoners or prisoners of conscience during your revolution. How or what resources did you use as women to really hammer either the international community or the African Union or whichever to really put force to make sure that the oppressors release our dear people? We need that advice, because seeing our leaders being slammed again or like ignored, not even in a procedure that was just, slammed again with a life sentence or upholding a life sentence on them, it's very heartbreaking. And I think we as women need to put our heads together to fight. We need your advice, please. What do we do to be able to really get this to some people who can listen and really act? That's my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, I was unmuting.
Yeah, I recall very much in the very early days when then Madam, the political leadership in terms of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and others, I recall very much those days when indeed the women overseas had to work very hard in bringing the situation of Liberia and those prisoners, women and men, who were in prisons to the international community, to the Special Rapporteur for Summary Execution. I remember what's his name from Kenya. He eventually became Minister of Justice. But we had to work very hard to bring our local situation to the larger world community. And you do that, and today you have the international NGOs, the human rights groups and all of that. You get to them, they will help you bring that to the larger world body. That's how you have to do it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And the recently, I think that the AU have what they call Peace and Security Commission or so. No, you have to work very hard, and lots of African NGOs, African Charter for Human Rights in Gambia and all of that. You know, get to them. They will help you to bring it to focus on the continent with your Nordics also.
I want to bring to the attention of Southern Cameroonians two things. Yvette talked about the women exposing themselves and the men not shying away from seeing their mothers and grandmothers naked. So when I address my Liberian speakers as Takumban, basically it's because this tradition actually is the root of Takumban, meaning our Takumban in Cameroon are postmenopausal women who actually come out when there is a crisis. They come out naked, and that coming out naked in their birth suits actually is the driving force of Takumban, because it brings the men to attention, just as in Liberia. So you have Takumban like we do in Southern Cameroons. It's a tradition that calls men to attention when their mothers and grandmothers actually expose themselves and show them their nakedness. On the issue of prisoners, there were two things that I wanted to bring out: the Takumban connection with Liberia, the fact that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who is the first female elected president of Africa, has been a prisoner herself, just like a long list of African pioneer presidents. We have Kenneth Kaunda, who was imprisoned. We have Jomo Kenyatta, and of course we have Madiba Nelson Mandela. All of these people have been imprisoned, and so we should not lose hope that our own leaders who are in jail may not, may have these fake life sentences be executed. So we need to lobby hard for them to be released, because it seems like that is the trend. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf spent a long time in jail, and she came out, she became president of Liberia, and she's a woman. Of all this list of men that are listed, if she could come out and rule Liberia, elected president, I think there's hope for us. But we should get together and maintain the lobby and the fight. So I don't see any hands raised, unless I'm kidding myself. I will ask my Takumban co-moderator. Oh, there is one, sorry. Ladies, could we just take, Isaac has a hand raised. And Isaac, you're gonna be the last one. Take your points, and then Tax Vicky is going to conclude to appreciate our guests from Liberia, and then we will hear from our guests to conclude this session. So over to you, the gentleman with the hand up.
Okay, thank you so much, Maggie. And I'd like to thank our mothers from Liberia for all the wisdom that they've imparted to us today. And I hope that those of us who are here listening and watching are going to, take your advice very seriously. In as much as we Southern Cameroonians, we are fighting the colonial oppressors in as much as we are calling on other Africans like you to come and commune with us and share with us your wisdom, we Southern Cameroonians also have something that we want to share with countries like Liberia or other African countries. We fight the war that we are fighting. We are struggling to build our own institutions during this war. And we would like to share that experience with Liberia. What I am talking about is that we Southern Cameroonians, because of the war, most of our people are not working. And so we are struggling to assist them through farming. And some Southern Cameroonians have created a program called Amber Farmers Voice, through which we assist our farmers with educational tips on how to grow food during this time of war. We think that it is a program that could also benefit people in the rural people in Liberia. This program is broadcast on Southern Cameroon's broadcasting television, which for those in the diaspora could be, they could receive it on via Facebook or via the SCDC TV website, or for the people who are at home, the thing goes on satellite, which they can receive at home. So we would like to share this information with you that you can share with our mothers back in Liberia, especially those in the rural areas, to watch it. We believe that they'll be able to learn something from the Southern Cameroonians who are fighting for, for their independence, and in the larger picture, fighting for the independence of Africa. Because one of the issues, one of the problems that Africa has is that we've relied on outside information for too long. We ourselves can generate information that we need for our own development. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and thank you so much for the wisdom that you've imparted on us, and we're going to take that very seriously.
We are very receptive to that. We happen to have a very dynamic Minister of Agriculture, to whom what you're talking about will be music in her ears. I like the sound of it. And it would be very good if Maggie, you could send us some communication on this. We bring it to the attention of the Minister of Agriculture. She's trying to push a lot in terms of rural agriculture, development and all. And I think this is a very, very beneficial and useful contribution. So I thank you for bringing that to our attention. It sounds very exciting, very much needed. And I think this is great. Maggie, you see, you have left us, but you are still helping to contribute to us, all the wonderful work you did here with us while you were here. I like this very much. Thank you.
Well, Liberia and Cameroon, Southern Cameroons in particular,
yeah, we
are joined at the umbilical cord, and we will, we had Dr. Amos Sawyer talk to us, and you, our dear friends, Takumban, have joined us today. So we really appreciate you taking this time to, it's quite long actually you've been here. So for no more questions, we will ask our Takumban chair, Lady B, to close this section by making her concluding remarks. And then our guests will each address us with their concluding remarks for us to end this with the Southern Cameroon's anthem. So over to you, Lady B.
Thank you, comrade. Thank you, our able Takumbans. I'm just so excited. I'm knowledge fed, and I can see it triggering some energy to go, that will go far and wide. We have regional groups, and hopefully in Liberia now we'll try to identify the Southern Cameroons who are there. Because in diaspora, we try to build these different regions in the different countries in a way that they're able to advocate for us in one way or the other. So, well, thank you all for coming, and I hope we'll meet you after this in the real talk. You know, not all goes on the air. The real one is at the back. On behalf of all the Takumbans in Southern Cameroons, Mommy, we say thank you. We say thank you.
So over to you. Usually we allow the younger Takumban to speak first. So Yvette is going to talk, and Banky can conclude.
Okay.
Yeah.
To fellow Takumbans, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity, because I think that's why we're here, to be able to share our experiences and to see how we can be supportive to each other. I want you not to lose hope, not to think that you cannot achieve. You know, the negativism, put it behind you, put it behind you. Like I said, even if you're 3 persons, you're gonna achieve something. Please remember that. Look forward for everything. I don't want you to think that there weren't problems. Yes, there were problems. There were constraints. There was a matter of our communications. That proved to be one of the problems. The lack of funding proved to be another problem. Someone had asked earlier about some of the things the men did. I forgot to tell you, one of the things was offering jobs to women. I forgot that, yeah. Offering jobs to the women and saying, you know, oh, don't worry, our faction will give you a job to continue to break up the unity that the women had. And some women took positions and therefore left the mass action. So I don't want you to think that it was all rosy. It wasn't all rosy. But the point is, you had to put those behind you and continue, keep focus. That's all. So we just want to say we're with you. If there's anything we can do to assist, we certainly will. What we've committed to, we're definitely going to see that it's done. Thank you for this opportunity, my sisters, and we're certainly with you all the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Takumban Yvette. Now to the Takumban of all the Takumbans, Banky, you are our mother with such experience. That you have the last word.
Well, Yvette has said it all, but as we're talking, I recall once I came home to Senegal, saw my mother in her 90s, and I was telling her of a problem I was having with the UN. And I told her this story. My mother said to me, dare to be a Daniel, dare to stand alone, dare to have a purpose firm, dare to make it known. This is my 90-year-old mother. She heard my story and she said these words to me. I was in a state of shock. Dare to be a Daniel, dare to stand alone, dare to have a purpose firm, dare to make it known. That's how I'm ending.
Wow.
And God bless you all. And thank you for reaching out to us. We are here to help you in any way. We've given you some suggestions. Let's hear from you. And the gentleman who came up with that information about agriculture, we're very, very interested. So indeed, let us form that bond. Peace.
We just got news before you ladies leave. Our leaders in detention send you greetings to the guests. They send you greetings, our leaders in detention. So we are so moved so grateful that they could watch you. They send you the message, greetings to you, and many, many thanks. Yes. So if you have any message, you can actually send to them as well.
Oh, definitely.
So moving, really. We really appreciate it.
Yes,
Extraordinary for them to have taken the time.
And we want them to know to not give up hope. You are political prisoners. It's not a crime to stand up for your country. It's not a crime to want your independence. It's not a crime to move your people forward or to mobilize them. So remember, I think Maggie said it all. She gave you examples of the great people of this world that were also political prisoners. Don't give up hope. The only person who knows your future is God.
Amen.
And hang on to him.
Amen. 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 Okay, amen to that. Well, thank you so much, ladies. The Southern Cameroon International Town Hall appreciate you. And after your departure, they will continue their meeting at the town hall. They have things to deliberate. So thank you so much for taking this time to,
Maggie, thank you.
Maggie, thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.